There are in truth no incurable conditions. When I first heard this, I was just fell in love with this quote immediately, because I'd already heard from another spiritual group that you could use spiritual means for relieving any problem in your life, including physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So when I read this, it just was validation that what I'd already heard wasn't just, off of somebody's idea, and it really could be possible and become a reality, and in my life it has. And I know I look kind of like I'm having difficulty with the cane, but the reality is that it's almost gone. I have, through doing the kind of work that I'm going to be explaining today, I've actually eliminated 8 addictions, bipolar disorder, domestic violence. This is the arthritis, but it's not technically arthritis anymore. My master took care of the arthritis part, so I'll explain that in a minute or later on. And fibromyalgia, other illnesses that I've had. Of all of the things that I've gone through medically and mentally and physically and emotionally, Spirit has come in various ways, or taken me to places I needed to be so I could get the health in my life restored. So it really is a very practical, spirituality is very practical in finding out. The story of my legs is I had arthritis from my ankles up to my hips. It's all gone except for right in the center of my knees where the meniscus is rebuilding. So that's what's left. I know it looks very strange to have someone hobbling around with a cane, but I feel very grateful because at one time both legs were like pillars. They didn't have feeling, and they were very uncomfortable. And they were very heavy, almost like concrete in a way. So that part's all gone, and it's just the rebuilding now of where the bones come together in the knee, so it's not bone on bone anymore. So yes, there are no incurable conditions as far as I'm concerned, so it has worked in my life. Cayce has made some wonderful comments to support this. Illness of any kind causes discordant vibrations, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, is what's the energy in your system that's causing the illness, and we'll go into that further. He also said a mental concept of that conceived as a standard of perfection is what we build toward and creates a motivating force in our lives. And that's exactly what I've done. One of his quote he also had is, if you can focus on illness or you can focus on health, which do you choose? So I stay positive. I know that it's on its way out. I mean, the obviously, not my whole legs anymore. And so it's just a matter of the timing. And so it's important to know. And you just can't give up too soon, because there is timing involved with some of the realizations that have come into my life to understand what's going on and where it came from. I'm a big believer, and Cayce talks about this, that you have to get to the root cause, that the physical is the result. So we're going to go into more of that. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Anita Moriani. She had probably the ultimate near-death experience of anyone I've come across. Now, I had a near-death experience, and my experience was much different than hers, but I've had similar experiences as what she describes in her near-death through meditative experiences. So I know what she's saying is true, and because I have experienced it, it just wasn't near-death experiencing what she's come into understanding. And in her near-death experience, she says, during my near-death experience, I saw all people as energy. And depending on wherever our energy level was, that was the world we created for ourselves. The understanding I gained from this was that if feeling good about ourselves was in our energy, then our reality would be positive. If cancer was in our energy, then even if we eradicated it with modern medicine, it would come back. But if we cleared it from our energy, the physical body would soon follow. None of us are in a real or physical as we think we are. From what I saw, it looked like we are energy first, and the physical is only the expression of that. Sound like Casey to me.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore we can change our physical reality if we change our energy, and that's what this program today is about. Some people have mentioned, I use the term vibration. For me personally, I was made to feel that in order to keep my energy vibration level up, I only had to live in the moment, enjoy every moment of life, and use each moment to elevate the next moment, which then elevates my future. It is in that moment of elevating your energy level that you can change your future. With this knowledge, you can create your own heaven or hell here on earth. It sounds very simplistic, but it's very deep when I was experiencing and understanding it. And hopefully I can help give you some understanding of that today. And here's a chart to help give you some idea that the spiral is your energy. And if you have low, dense energy, you're in fear, anger, shame, depression, low energy vibrates at a low, slow vibrational level. Some people, if you're in crisis, chaos, or confusion, or those kinds of places, you know, what was the enemy of Get Smart? Do you remember? Chaos. So if you're in those places, you have low energy in your system, and it's going to manifest your health from that particular low energy. We all have a vital life force flowing through us, but if it's too low to actually move around and circulate, you're not getting the energy you need to be healthy. So one of the things, I want to go back. Okay, one of the things that we're being metaphysical can say this is that some of the churches tend to use words like Satan and the devil. It's just your lower energy, and it needs to be coming back into becoming a higher energy, or you have to literally love yourself back into being healthy. And most people don't want to look at those parts of ourselves that are jealous or envious. We want to look very good to everybody, so we just suppress them and ignore them, and don't want to deal with them, and so we look really wonderful on the surface, and don't deal with those parts of that little child inside that hasn't been loved back into health. That's all it is. You're just lacking some love in your life, and that's what the lack of love creates illness. So as you are moving your energy up, and we're going to talk about the ways to do that, into a higher vibration, you go through different stages. It's very, very gradually. You just don't jump into being a higher vibration because your body couldn't handle it. Your circuits would, it's like having post-traumatic stress disorder. That's exactly what it is. Your body cannot bear all that energy at once, and it breaks the circuit. So, and we've been able to find Archangel Michael came in and helped me heal my post-traumatic stress disorder, so I understand how that works today. So you can, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm trying to push the laser part. You can move into higher consciousness, and it's a step-by-step process. In the Bible they call it precept upon precept. You just don't jump into being healthy. It's a gradual process. You've heard about the process and trust the process. That's what we're talking about today. It doesn't happen overnight, believe me. It's been 9 years for my body to get this good that it's just down to my knees. I've been able to be in a healthy part about addictions now for quite a few years. I've had no prescription drugs for over 12 years. When they said you'll be bipolar the rest of your life, I've been declared sane, and I haven't had any medications for over 12 years. So what I found out is medications and those kinds of things that we'll have a quote here later actually stops health in many cases, which is what some people would like to have us stay sick so they have an income coming in. So we can literally raise our, I pushed the wrong button, literally raise our energy up into the love of who we are, the bliss, the ecstasy, and to our God source. Because we are an energy field. So if your energy's down here, it's what can I do today to help raise my energy, and there's different ways to do that. And as you know, Casey said, source is the spirit is the source, mind is the builder, physical is the result. So the trick is In third dimension, our mind was split, separated. And you have the choice to look through the ego, which is third dimension, and you find good and bad in people's lives, right and wrong. Or my mother taught me to be very critical and judgmental. I do that naturally. I'm working out of it, obviously. But when you give those things up, that duality, that darker energy, it works much better in your life. But what I know today is that if you're coming from the ego, the energy cannot get through to the physical body because the chakras aren't operating and working. They are the interface between the source and the physical body. So if your chakras are not functioning, and I have a program where I call aligning it with the source, and one of the things we do is to get the chakras operating right. And I do that in my counseling too. So it's very important to have all your chakras open and operating, because that means that you are actually getting the energy from the mind of God. You're actually getting the vital life force of who you are coming through to you and giving you the physical health that's the result. A healthy body. And there's everything functioning as it needs to function, because it's just like the blood has to circulate through your body to nourish it with the right and appropriate foods. The energy has to circulate through your body to nurture, and it flows through the meridians. And so we'll talk about later in the morning too, afternoon, about when you break up that energy with things like Qigong, Reiki, various energy ways of breaking up the stuck energy that's not flowing. When the energy starts flowing, then guess what? You're going to have a healthy body because it's being nurtured with the Spirit of God. So it's not just good food that gives us energy. It's actually the God source that keeps us healthy. And when we start looking at the Spirit, the source of our being, then we're healthy. So that became my goal, is to return back to the oneness. Now, I had never thought of this before, but when I was putting this particular slide together, guess what I saw? Illusions, illness. I'd never seen ill at the beginning of both of those words before. When you're in illusion, which is third dimension, which is using your ego, which culturally we are conditioned to do through all kinds of sources, especially the television, the violent. Television news used to be different. Now it's about who shot who and who killed who and all the different things going on in that kind of situation. And that's called the news. What it does, really, it keeps your vibrations down. Just like the violent movies or the other, various ways they have of video games for kids today. We walked out of seeing the movie Les Miserables at Christmas time, and in the lobby of the movie theater, here's an atomic type of gun. I don't know what, I'm not a gun person, but it was some kind of gun they're trying to outlaw, of course. And it was hooked up to a video game for kids, and as they came out of the movie, here's this video game for them to play using guns, and then they wonder why kids go off. They can't tell if it's an illusion, or at least that are not smart enough to think about it, that if I practice on this toy, at another point in time, my brain might tell me to go actually do it. They're training them is what they're doing. And to do that kind of thing, and then of course everybody gets upset. So the whole thing's been a setup in a way. So we're in delusion, we're in false impressions, fantasy, and daydreams when we're in third dimension. Because we're separated from God with God's reality. We're not in reality. So the figments of our imagination come from our ego, and so we're being fed through the things around us, and we're going to go more into that in a minute, to stay in illusion. We are 1/2 of 1% of the population sitting in here today. We're part of that population that has overcome the illusion of our egos. Or at least we're working on it. I shouldn't say we've overdone it. I don't think anybody on earth has still overcome it completely, but we're working on it. So that's great. I applaud you people for being here. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. And of course, that's how the Bible starts. And those are the truest words that we can remember. Is that the energy in you is pure love, You were created with that energy of love. That's who you are. All you have to do is find the obstacles that are up there stopping that from manifesting in your life. It's that simple, but doing it's the challenge. So, moving on. This is one of our Search for God affirmations. Father, as we seek to see and know thy face, may we each as individuals and as a group come to know ourselves, even as we are known that we are lights in thee. We are the light of God. The light of God is in you. That spark of divinity is in your heart. That's who you are. And the third dimension has blotted that out of the darkness. And we've been in the dark for a long time. So the others may better see the concept of thy spirit. And knowing that you are a light, I gave a program a while back and I passed out little flashlights to everybody. Darcy was there. I think she still has hers because to remind us that you still have it.
Yeah.
We are the light. And so when we remember that, that can be our goal and you don't have to focus on the illness. The secret left out the most important part. You know, the secret says like attracts like. You know, it's all about universal laws of attraction, and exactly it is. But it's not what you're thinking that you attract. It's the energy that you are is what you attract. And they don't talk about changing your emotions. They don't talk about changing your mental frame of mind. To a degree they do. But it can't happen until the energy changes as far as attracting something into your life you're trying to attract. So it is becoming a higher vibrational. His pointer and thing are right next to each other, so I get the wrong button. It is a vibrational attraction, not a mental attraction. It is becoming a higher vibration that you attract Christ consciousness. And the book I just completed, Paradigm Busters, the Cayce quote is it's only through the mental and the emotional that you come into the Christ consciousness and that you can be healed. So we are on the right track with Cayce for sure. Living the balanced holistic life, keep a normal balance, not being an extremist in any direction. Wherein diet, exercise, spirituality, or morality, but in all, let there be a coordinate influence. For every phase of this, of the physical, mental, and spiritual life is dependent upon the other. They are one. So when we're talking about holistic health, and Cayce, of course, is the father of holistic health, he's talking about all parts of our lives, not just the affirmation, not just what you think, not just going to a doctor and trying to be well. That's only one part of your life. You actually have a physical, mental, emotional, which a lot of people like to ignore, and spiritual part. He also said, take time to be holy, for holiness is oneness of the mental, spiritual, and the material life. You are a whole spirit. You are a Holy Spirit. The only thing that is separating you from God is being told that you were separated, and churches have done that very well for years. The truth is you've never been separated. So we are moving out of third dimension into closer to being one with God. When I channeled this, that part of what was coming out tonight, he told me part of what was happening. And so if you think of yourself as being whole, you know, that's our goal again, is to look for what we truly are, not what society has conditioned us to think we are. Oh, this doesn't show up very well in here. Powerless. See, if you look outside of yourself for the answers, you give away your power, and you can't be whole anymore. So the arrows are depicting that you're giving away your power. And so if you're looking for love, emotional security, self-esteem, relationships, material security, social ambitions, status, validation, family, churches, friends, spouses, medicine, religions, gurus, experts, leaders, spiritual teachers. If you're looking out there for them to give you the answers, you're giving away your power. Now, there's nothing wrong with having friendships and having families. There's nothing wrong with medicine. I don't think I want an operation without having anesthetics. so, you know, there's appropriate times. But if we want to be whole, we have to be detached from everything out there. And if we're distorting our attraction out there, it takes away our power. So you give away your power, and you are no longer hold, you're getting a bit here and a bit there. No wonder you're getting sick. You're trying to make your family well. You're trying to take care of your job. Your distractions are all over the place. And so there is a way to be able to emotionally stay whole and still have families and things. You just aren't emotionally attached to them where you're getting energy out to them. You're doing it from a positive point of a healthy point of view. Most of us are very codependent. I had to overcome that addiction and discovered that it's not out there that is going to make me well, it's what's inside that's going to make me well. So we're going to move out of third dimension. We've been looking for love in all the wrong places. The ego physical world is in the third dimension, and of course those are our illusions, our ego, our negativity, our fear. Now all of that makes us powerless. And our society has done a beautiful job of perpetuating that. You know, there's always another catastrophe if things seems to go pretty well or smoothly in the news for a while, and then there's another bombing or there's another whatever. And all of that is purposely orchestrated to keep you in fear for the last several thousand years. So we are moving into reality and grace. Yay. Which is called the fifth dimension. So it means you're going to move out of your head and move into your heart. And the leap to do that is called faith. And I think all of you, I'm talking to the choir right now, have a great deal of faith or you wouldn't be here today. So we move into love, peace, Christ consciousness, and we stay within our own, some people call it our own hula hoop, and we stay powerful. We don't give away our power anymore. Quotes. There are in truth no incurable conditions. I think this is a very powerful statement. Medicine wouldn't like it because they wouldn't make their profits off of drugs, for one thing. And they wouldn't have to have all their fancy machines and whatever. And sometimes they're very practical. I mean, they x-rayed my niece and I found out what was wrong, but now Mac does a lot. We're healers, and we work on each other. And he's actually literally rebuilding the necessary cartilage or whatever meniscus to build it back. So, and they say those things can't be done. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is being done. It's not bone on bone anymore, and I can tell the difference. The Christ consciousness is the only source of healing for a physical and mental body. And again, Cayce's comments are very powerful. This is one of my really favorite ones. And when the truth is known, the healing or the power to throw off disease and get well is wholly within the subconscious and is personal. We will know that curing and palliating by the administration of remedies, drugs, serums, vaccines, surgery, feeding to keep up the strength, etc. are superfluous, meddlesome, and on the order of throwing a monkey wrench into the machine ring. Dr. John H. Children has his book at home. I think that's amazing because I found that exactly true in my case, and that's the kind of counseling I do is to go into the subconscious. I do past life regression and childhood regression, other kinds of regressions in body consciousness. Your body will tell you what's wrong and give you the healing information and regression. So there's ways to find out the answers, and you don't necessarily need an X-ray. So there are definitely help here. Never saw. This is Archangel Michael, I got this out of some Cayce material, never solve a problem from the level it was created. It always has to come from a higher level. Now that's what Archangel Michael said. Einstein worded it, you cannot solve a problem on the same level of which it was created, which is basically the same information. And the 12 steps of recovery say, and came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And that's when I realized I could come out of my bipolar and reading that particular phrase. So I know today that God restores, the source restores, however you choose to determine that higher power in your life, will restore your sanity, your health, and all parts of being. It is a trade secret, but I'll tell you anyway. All healing is self-healing. Now some of you might not know Dr. Albert Schweitzer, but he was a missionary in Africa. Also a very good fine organist. And he was very much in tune with spiritual help for healing. Divine love always has met and always will meet everything we need. Mary Baker Eddy. You know, so it's not just Edgar Cayce saying these things. You know, here we have a Dr. Schweitzer, we have Archangel Michael, we have all kinds of people saying the same thing. Balance in your life is physical, mentally, and emotionally, spiritually. And all of that needs to be taken care of so that the lower, denser energy can rise to the surface and restore you back to perfect health. There are 4 basic sources of toxicity. Physical, we have a problem with clean air. Everybody knows about pollution. Chemtrails, those things that have been perpetrated to help lower the population. Lots of ways of spoiling our wonderful, wonderful air. That's why being here is so wonderful, because the trees and the water and the mountains, and you're just in nature, and it's really nice, wonderful air here. The water has been definitely, I was on the water board in Edgewood. We have the best water in the whole United States. They won a contest for Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and then took it to the nationals and won. We have nothing polluting in our well water, nothing. And it's beautiful, beautiful water. And what I want to say is about water, not only can it be polluted by fluoride, and that's a whole evening in itself. I'm trying to put 10 hours of lecture into an hour this today. I hope I can make it. If you're familiar with Dr. Emoto, who was in What the Bleep Do We Know, and you're familiar that words can spoil water and cause all kinds of ugly, ugly crystals or formations, and I can pass this around if you like, and some of them are just terribly, I'm told to be, and you might want to see that the words that are negative or evil, damaging kinds of words create water crystals that are just terrible, terrible. Now, water is definitely important for our living because we are created mostly of water. The Bible said that we were created from the dirt of the earth, which is not true. That's another misnomer in the Bible. We're created from the oceans. So you have to have a healthy water base to your body. And so part of the illness problems is people still continue to use things that are toxic, drink toxic items. Different places provide toxic chloride or fluoride into the water, various things like that, which hopefully you don't have areas where that water is bad. And you can't trust bottled water. Did you know that some of it just comes straight from the tap? If you want to do the simplest, cheapest way I know to change your water, I've done this for years, is to put the fruits of the Spirit on your water. I use a rubber band, and it will change the molecular, the water will actually taste different. It will change the molecular function or arrangement of molecules in your water, and you will actually, in a short time, feel the difference. So it works the same as if I also use flower essences with my clients, which also adds to your positive.
This water here is from Washington State, and I brought this at Fred Meyer's, is what I brought here for the snack bar, but I asked God to bless all the water that we are drinking. So I feel that actually helps too.
Yes. Thank you for being so on top of that.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Cayce said that Bible quote that says God created man from the dust of the earth. Cayce said what that refers to is that our human bodies has everything in them that is in the earth. There is no mineral, there's nothing in the earth physical that we do not have in our bodies. And that's what that quote meant in the Bible.
Well, one of the things that I know, he also said in tinted gardens, which is for the same reason, the minerals in the area that you live should be the minerals that are in the vegetables you're eating. Same idea. Thank you for adding that. I wanted to read, I'm positive I put it in here, how valuable water is. There was a study, this is in my book that's just coming out, a study by the University of Washington. And according to the University of Washington, 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. 37% of Americans hunger. I keep my bottle on the drain board in my kitchen, and when I go back and forth to my computer down the hall, I'm always taking a swig of water. He said, or they said, even mild dehydration will slow down one's metabolism as much as 3%. 1 glass of water shuts down midnight hunger pangs for almost 100% of the dieters in the study. Lack of water is the number one trigger of daytime fatigue. Preliminary research indicates that 8 to 10 glasses of water a day could significantly ease back and joint pain for up to 80% of the sufferers. Now, according to an arthritis book that I read that was at Solomar, the reason people have, this is part of what's been going on with trying to drink a lot of water, is that your body has a hierarchy of where the water goes to keep it healthy. So, guess what's last on the hierarchy?
Lower extremities.
The joints and the bones and the parts that give you arthritis. So, your blood
Right now I need 6 bottles of water.
yeah, and your circulation for your blood has to have water to get all the nutrients around you and everything. So the last thing that's picked up is the part for your joints. A mere 2% drop in body water can trigger fuzzy short-term memory, trouble with basic math, and difficulty focusing on computer screens or printed page. Drinking 5 glasses of water daily decreases the risk of colon cancer, 45%. It can slash the risk of breast cancer by 79%. And one is 50% less likely to develop bladder cancer. Of course, too much water often has side effects too, and the goal is to determine the proper water intake for your body. But when Mac had his triglycerides went clear off the chart at one point, and the spirit doctor we were going to at the time, Dr. Lang, told Mac he had to double his water intake, and it literally flushed his system out. Never went to a doctor, it just took care of it beautifully. So Mac said, well, I drink a lot of water, how about tea or pop or whatever? And Dr. Lang's comment was, water is water. So when you think you're drinking juices or coffee or liquids, it's still not water, okay? So that's just for your health there. Food. Lots of things to say about food because of you all are very, I'm talking to the choir today, but a lot of it has been contaminated in so many ways. You're not getting what you think you are anymore with the GMOs and the alterations and so forth that's going on with food. We'll come to dental in a bit, but we're going to go into the Cayce diet. And there is a copy of the Cayce diet in your folder here. And as you see it, you have it right in front of your face if you wanted to take notes. It's really about having an alkaline diet. And if you want to stay healthy, that's probably a very good place to focus on is, are you eating foods that are going to keep your body alkaline? And in the center circle is 80% of the foods you should be eating. And he talks about below ground vegetables and above ground vegetables. Have you noticed balance right off the bat? You know, so it's about balancing your body. Beverages are water. He just mentioned fruit juices in there besides herb tea. I would like to caution you today about fruit juices. I have given up fruit juices, mostly because they are full of fructose, which is just the same as alcohol. Goes straight to your liver. It causes multiple medical problems. I don't have a list. I put it in my book, but there's a huge list of problems that can come on from fructose. And if you read the labels, almost everything has high fructose sugar in it. And there is a commercial out that says sugar is sugar. That's the blatant lie. They just don't want people to read the labels or feel concerned about what they're putting in their bodies because table sugar and high fructose corn syrup does not digest the same in your body. Regular sugar that we traditionally have used also goes around with the blood and helps provide nutrients. It also does go to the liver, but not predominantly. The corn syrup is very toxic. Let's put it down. It's very toxic. They are even putting a toxic element in orange juice. when I do my talk, I can go on and on about this. I love talking about food stuff. Because oranges, some ripen sooner than others, some are greener than others, some have different flavors because of the varieties. They have a toxic substance they put in to make it all taste the same. So you're not really getting the orange juice you think you're getting. So when I want orange juice, I buy oranges and I just eat an orange. I don't wait for the juice because I don't want the other elements that are involved. The second circle, dairy products. I want you to be concerned. See, when Cayce put this together, this is wonderful information, but today our culture and grocery stores are different. So when I was at Fred Meyer's, I took a friend for medications the other day. She couldn't drive herself. She just had some strokes. And I went into Fred Meyer's, and I've been in there for ages. They have a wonderful organic fresh vegetable section. I got organic milk. I was able to get organic vegetables. I was able to, it was wonderful. Organic eggs. I came home, I was like seventh heaven. I came home and I was tickled pink. Even in a regular store, I look to make sure I get milk that does not have hormones in it. Price cheese that doesn't have hormones in it. Tillamook is a good brand to get. Dairy Gold's a good brand. Some of the others are iffy.
You probably already know this, but I was just reading a new article that just came out that said that some of the words are very misleading. Like if you say something that says all natural, it means absolutely nothing.
It's
It's not verified, it means nothing. If it says organic, then it has to be verified. If it says 100% organic, that has to be verified, and they have people on site, the whole thing. If it says there, it's range poultry or range eggs, free range or caged, those mean absolutely nothing. They could have the door open to their cage and never leave it. It doesn't mean anything. Free range doesn't mean anything. Nobody checks, nobody verifies. So there's a lot of misnomers out there. The all natural, the range.
The labeling is a big mess, and there's a lot of people in the government that are promoting people shouldn't know what's on the label, and they do it irresponsibly. Let's put it that way.
You want the ones that are verifiable and that they actually go on site and check, and so that they know what's in there.
I think that's real smart advice. Thank you. And then if you'll notice, he has honey listed, and I have come to be a big believer in honey, especially if it's grown in your area. Well, again, the nutrients of the honeybees go collect out which you need locally for for the best health of who you are. I have actually given up vitamins because so much of them are not what you think they are either. They're artificial for one thing. So bee pollen contains all the nutrients you need. Now, I know of stories where people have used bee and honey to redeem their health in various ways. Bee pollen, royal jelly, raw honey, and propolis are compounded into what they call bee caps. And so when I travel, I take bee caps with me because I can't take out liquid honey. It's kind of messy. Yes?
My brother gave me a big carton, Tupperware carton like this of bee pollen years ago. I had never used it. I wonder if it's still good.
Yes.
Doesn't honey keep?
It keeps forever.
I mean, I should know my grandfather.
That was one of the...
Yakima Valley beekeeper.
Yeah,
I was
one
with
of
the bees at that time.
You have to look at the label though, because you could get the little honey bears. It says honey, and you pick it up and you turn it over and look at the label. It says ingredients, high fructose corn syrup.
Well, that's my next comment. You're a step ahead of me, Alice. You should be up here. Yes?
Do you get your honey at the vegetable cross from?
I have been getting it lately from
I've been
Uncle
getting mine
Harry's in
there.
Kirkland.
I'm waiting for summer to come so I can get some.
So, well, I get it sent to me from Kirkland. So that's worked out for right now. Fake honey. Okay. 76% of the honey samples bought at grocery stores, such as Top Foods, Safeway, QFC, Kroger, Harris, Tweeter, etc., were absent of pollen in the honey. So you're not buying what you're think you're getting.
Repeat that. What did you say?
They have no pollen.
There's no pollen in
Absent
the
of.
honey.
Really?
76%. 77% of the honey from big box stores like Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart, and Target are absent of pollen. 100% of the honey sampled from stores like Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS Pharmacy were absent of pollen. So the good news is all the samples from farmers markets, that's what you're kind of referring to, Darcy, that place by us, co-ops, natural stores like Trader Joe's, had the full proper complements of pollen, as did organic brands from common grocery stores. But fake honey, the soy substitute that it is, might be the only thing even remotely resembling honey that you'll be able to get if we don't find a way to save the honeybees.
I was really lucky when I was growing up because my grandfather was a beekeeper. And every year we would get this big 5-gallon bucket full of honey with all the honeycomb and everything. That was when we had really good honey.
Oh, I know where I got some of my honey lately. Well, Winco has honey hives in the store. And you can push the tap back and the honey comes right into your container and you buy it fresh right from the honey hive, right in the store. They have 3 different flavors. One was the, I can't tell you.
Blackberry or?
Well, one was, but it's what the honeybees were eating off of determined the flavor. So they had 3 flavors there that you could pick from. So you can get really fresh honey right off the tap, so to speak, at Winco.
I was just shocked when I heard that. We went to our cupboard, we opened the cupboard, we pulled out the little honeyberry thing, we turned it over and it said, I forgot the words, or went in the garbage.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Right on there.
Well, honey is one of the ones that you just have to be careful.
One of the better.
They're not all like that, but, because I've seen honeybears that say bee pollen, but.
Right.
Well, we got to keep moving on here. We're going to get through this. On circle 3, the things I wanted to mention about the oil. Again, today things are not what they used to be. So cold pressed means that the nutrients have not been cooked out of them. So if you get something that is non-pasteurized or cold pressed, you are getting the actual elements you're wanting to buy. So when you look at these different things that they have there, sunflower, safflower, walnut, olive, sesame, and mayonnaise, you'll notice it does not say soybean. I'm trying to think about how bad that is here too. Here, 94% of all soybeans, 93% of canola, 93% of cottonseed oil, 72% of all corn, approximately 25% of all milk and yogurt contains genetically engineered combined bovine growth hormone. So what we're saying is that not only is the oils that we generally have used in the past contaminated at this point, I've discovered that, well, olive oil still is okay, but I've turned to coconut oil. When you cook with it, it doesn't separate out to be harmful. It's very productive in many ways. People have used it for a variety of things. Ned's sister died recently of Alzheimer's. We had her taking coconut oil, and she was able to stay more lucid until she passed. So also, ladies, it helps reduce waistlines. Yes. If you get cold pressed peanut oil, you can get bar products that has Cayce products. They have catalogs they send to you if you're a Cayce person. You can get cold pressed peanut oil from them. It would be perfectly fine. But just going to a grocery store and taking it off the shelf, check the ingredients, not the labels. Like she's saying, they can put anything on there. Sadly to say, like GMO, MSG is what I meant. They don't have to put that on the label. They call it natural flavoring. So they don't have to specify what the natural flavoring is.
Natural is meaningless.
Yeah, that's right. It's meaningless. So check the ingredients. Know what you're buying. I'm getting more and more careful about that constantly. There was something here. Truth about soybean oil. I don't have time to read and go into all the details, and I would just say stay away from anything with soybeans. It's full of GMOs. That's what it is today. Coconut oil says a special of unsaturated fats. If you are not familiar with Dr. Mercola on the internet, it's Mercola.com. He's a doctor who's very much into the current things of what's going on as far as labeling, Alice, as far as like the honey and so forth. So you would be interested probably in his side.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him.
Yeah.
What was that name again? I'm sorry.
Mercola.com. MERCOLA. And on the back side of your diet, it tells you which are the alkaline and which are the acid foods, so that you can keep your body in a better balance. There are some marvelous Cayce books about alkaline diets also. Positive support. Fruits of the Spirit under drinking water. I just told you about that one. Highland cell salts. If you're not familiar, I take very little of anything anymore because my body's coming into balance and I can't handle most of it, throw it up. But Highland cell salts are for your cells of your body. They restore the missing minerals. Your cells have consciousness. They have been so obliterated with toxic items they cannot function and make your system operate like they need to. HYLANDS. You can get them super supplements. They're super cheap too. $5 a bottle, 500 pills, $8 a bottle, 500 pills. You take 4 of them 3 times a day. They dissolve on your tongue, but they last and last. 500 pills is a lot of pills, so they last and last. There's a little book you can get on Amazon.com for, I get used ones for less than like $3, that tells you which pills. There's 12 bottles, 12 different ones, that you can take for any illness to help your body sustain the health you truly want. Not going to a drugstore necessarily. Here's what the big caps look like. I use those. I'm also using Chinese herbs because they are, I'm finding out, very practical for my situation. And restoring circulation, releasing all kinds of things that need to be taken care of. Excuse me. Everybody knows about castor oil packs in this room, but I wanted just to remind you how valuable they are, and there's just a great big list of items that they can help with. So oftentimes that's a really easy, inexpensive way to get yourself back on. Matthew, who is an entity on the other side, says from a child higher the entity, we strongly suggest that you not resort to antidepressants or other prescription drugs or the many that are lining store shelves. Particularly in the prevailing energies, the chemicals in drugs can suppress or destroy bodies' own healing mechanisms. If you are on a medically prescribed regimen, consult with your health caregiver about safely reducing dosages. And I do strongly recommend that with the people I work with, because in my case, when I got off the Depakote, I could actually move into reality. I'm not drugged anymore. Isn't that amazing?
Because and of course you know this, but because of the heart condition that I've been living with for a long time, I was on 2 different drugs. One of them was 2 capsules and the other one was 1. Spirit told me to get rid of the drugs. They cut first the 1 pill out, and then a few weeks later they say, get rid of the other one. And so by the time I got to the doctor, I said, well, I'm down just only on half of this 1 prescription. The Spirit told me so, and she doesn't argue with me anymore.
Interesting.
Because I told her, I said, I'm sorry, whatever God's Spirit tells me, that's what I do.
Okay.
And I have been much better off. So I guess.
Okay, well, I would just like to hop in here with a couple more things. There's not a lot of things that they haven't messed up with on our food system lately, especially with pesticides. So those items that have the least pesticide are broccoli, eggplant, cabbage, banana, kiwi, asparagus, sweet peas frozen, mangoes, pineapple, sweet corn frozen, avocado, and onion. So if you're looking for the least items of pesticides, that's helpful. If you're 7 ills that don't need pills: arthritis, postural, cognitive decline, depression, diabetes, high blood pressure, and osteoporosis. I'm finding out through regression therapy more and more things don't need pills also. Foods experts won't eat: canned tomatoes, corn-fed beef, you probably know why, microwave popcorn, non-organic potatoes, farm salmon. Oh, the salmon problem. I would really check your labels for tapia. If it says farm raised, I wouldn't waste my money. If they feed it, you wouldn't believe. Same, they're moving into salmon being farm raised now, so be sure it's wild caught. If you hopefully can trust the label. Because it's not being fed healthy, nutritional things that you want for yourself. Milk product produced with artificial hormones and conventional apples, and when it comes to the apple diet that he talked about, that's in your folder here. Inexpensive, good way to be able to detox. I know several people that have spent thousands of dollars at detox farms and come back sick afterwards because they didn't really understand the body. And here's such a simple way from Cayce that works. It's on one of the pages that says apple diet. He suggests there's only 2 varieties of apples that work for your diet. And one of them I've never heard of before. The one everybody's familiar with is the Red Delicious. So that's what I'll buy a bag of Red Delicious. I would like to know where I can get Red Delicious that are probably not contaminated like they are nowadays. I'm going to probably check out and see if I can get some at a place where they have organic apples. But the diet, we need to detox our systems. It physically is as important as any other part of our system. So what it says here is that it's very important to understand that human health does not require the products of the pharmaceutical companies. There is an aspect of human health that is related to consciousness. That's what we're talking about today. There is an aspect of human health that is related to good diet, which is why Cayce's diet is so important. There are aspects of human health that are strictly energetic, and that's where spirit comes in. And it's just not talking about cures that require nothing but energy. The energy, believe it or not, can be harnessed by building a pyramid. Now, I know somebody that did this. Oh, Dr. Shealy on one of his tapes from DVD thing from the headquarters showed how he built a pyramid and used it for helping to heal people. It appears that the ancients who did this were very much more knowledgeable than we gave them credit for. So that is one thing that's very important. I just would like, before we move on into the next section, to make a statement. So many children are being put on Ritalin. And when I taught school, we didn't have Ritalin. What I discovered is that they invented Ritalin and decided they needed a market for it. And so they labeled these children, who were scapegoat children from dysfunctional families, and decided to. And that's what I came across. Australian, I've known this for a long time. We have a relative whose son is unable to hold a job and be a social person at this point because of Ritalin. Australian National Health and Medical Research Council has issued controversial draft guidelines that imply a child could be taken into protective custody if a parent refuses to give their child ADHD drugs. This is going on in our own United States. The original committee reportedly resigned because he was affiliated with drug companies. Ritalin is a potentially dangerous class 2 narcotic developed by the Drug Enforcement Agency as a controlled substance because it can lead to dependence. Other side effects include psychotic symptoms, hostility, delayed growth, heart problems, and more. So there are better options, I know, than drugs. In my case, I found that to be also true. Now we want to move on to, this is your body. And there's a picture of this in your chart here, because I think this is one of the most, if you're wanting to say there's no incurable conditions, all kinds of illnesses and things show up in your body, and if you know where it's coming from, then you can handle it, because you know how to address it. So If you're having something with your left side, it says receptivity, taking in feminine energy. What I noted is a gal came for free healing a few weeks back, and her whole left side was in pain, and she was going to doctors and da-da-da-da. John came in to do, Darcy comes to our healings quite often. John came in and gave her all kinds of information on how she was protecting her body from the feminine energy coming in, the loving energy, because it was safer not to let it in from her emotional environment that she was letting in, and she was trying to protect herself. So when you start to understand that your physical ailments are your actually crying out, wake up, and there's something going on in your life, not to go put a drug on it, but to say, can I eat better, can I think better, can I understand what's going on so I don't have to have that particular ache and pain anymore. And this chart I use a lot with my clients. And there is a healing prayer. I ask the great healing force through it all, instructions for my mind and body, and to restore me to perfect health. I ask this in all sincerity and honesty, and I will do my part. That's the important. I will do my part. So many people are looking for a doctor to fix them if you're few people in here aren't, but I'm saying this is a marvelous prayer to help support that. I ask this great unseen healing force to help both present and absent ones who are in need of help, and to restore them to perfect health. I put my trust in the love and power of God. When you send it out to others, who really is getting it? You're healing yourself, but it's also helping them. So we're all one. So it's marvelous to be able to do that, and that prayer is on here for you. Thoughts. I don't know if you're familiar with affirmations, but used with flower essences, they're extremely powerful. We're so in our heads and so inclined to think of ourselves as inadequate, not worthy, not healthy because our parents had it. Well, change your thinking from what your parents thought. Just because your parents, I know a lady who said, well, my grandmother had it, my mother had it, and now it's my turn. And I thought, my grandmother was mentally ill, my mother was mentally ill. I ain't mentally ill anymore. I changed my thinking. Think for yourself, people. Just because the family thinks that way. I had to walk away from my family because I was different. But, and that's kind of been healed and mended over time. But, yeah, affirm your truth. And I have on here for you affirmations for health. These come from, so you know, Marilyn Redmond, these come in years for CBEC. On the back side, it says affirmations for health, and she gave me those. 7 deadly sins. You need to release yourself of all those feelings that are inside for whatever reason. Denial. My book deals with denial in the very second chapter after my story. It's the first chapter. When you don't tell yourself these things are going on and you pretend they aren't, you stuff them. And that's what my master actually healed my arthritis. When he came in, he says, you're going to still have pain to deal with those feelings you still have not addressed. So I'm still unearthing stuffed feelings is what's really going on. Yes?
Spirit told me, and of course Marilyn knows this, but Spirit told me quite a long time ago that, remember, we tip our head when we get upset or anxiety or whatever, and we go, you're stuffing. Spirit told me, tip your head out and blow up. So even I'm blowing up, I'm getting rid of, I'm letting go.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you have your head down and breathing, you're stuffing.
Right.
It's all that crap, and we want to get rid of it.
And if you're into selfishness, you're into protecting yourself because you feel a lack of, you feel hurt, damaged, wounded, whatever, and you're trying, your ego tells you to protect yourself. Well, guess what? That's where the illness comes from, because your vital energy can't move through if it's shut down. And if you have barriers to it. So, in fact, I just recently realized that I had put up barriers and actually stopped my real father's love from coming from me, because I thought he was going to beat me up next, so he asked my history. I thought he was going to beat me up next after he beat up my mom. He never treated me like that. It took me 73 years, 73 years to figure out. The whole problem was between the two of them and had nothing to do with me. And I kept that love all my life. So, you know, our selfishness is to protect us, but we don't, as children of God, being vulnerable is the safest place you can be. You totally have love around you and nothing can harm you. So being inconsiderate of yourself by not doing these things. You're actually creating your own problems by not changing them. So what's hard to release your beliefs? The church gives us all kinds of beliefs that limit us, cultural limiting. You know, you're going to be sick the rest of your life. That's what I was told with my bipolar. You know, guess what? I'm not. Medically believe that drugs will cure you. You know, just come to us and we'll give you more drugs. Parents and generational messages. Being attached to family and children and friends so much that you can't have your own life. You're living through them and hanging on. You know, I was like a barnacle. You know, I didn't have a mother that loved me, and so I'd hang on to certain people in my life. I'd call them my mother, and I was like a barnacle, you know. You can't do that. A lady came for help at one point, and she really couldn't understand the word detachment. She had a terrible case of Parkinson's disease, and it was all out of trying to control and make it her safe. And she just couldn't understand how she could give up her family. I said, no, you don't give up your family physically, emotionally. And she couldn't get it. And friends too. Most difficult is forgiveness, forgiving yourself and others. So that really puts you into your heart instead of looking outside for answers. This is from Gerald Jampolsky. I don't know if you know about the Course in Miracles, but he's written a lot of books based on the Course in Miracles that are marvelous. Forgiveness is the shortest route to God. Forgiveness creates a world where we do not withhold our love from anyone. I had to practice that today myself. Forgiveness is letting go of all hopes for a better past. That's the one Oprah likes.
That's a good one.
Okay, so if we don't do the things I'm talking about, we stay in the victim cycle, and it just goes around like a hamster in the wheel. And around and around we go. And what we're really talking about is we've been reacting to fear, and it keeps us powerless. So what we want to do is break the cycle. I started to break it with guilt. Guilt's a useless emotion. And start taking responsibility for my emotions, and then you can master your emotions. And you become the master of your life. And that's what a master is. You respond in God's love, and you are powerful. That's empowerment. So what you are doing is you're starting to live in the now. You give up the past when you forgive. My mother was a great worrier of the future. She went through the Depression. And to give up the past, that I wasn't going to be beat up next, and I wasn't going to not have any money because of the Depression. I could live in the now, which is the presence of God. You can't be sick when you're living in the now. All the energy of God can flow through and reach you and circulate and keep you healthy. So emotionally, we have been releasing emotional baggage of fear, guilt, resentment, shame, everything that was on that first chart you saw that was in the low vibrations. You come out of your selfishness, self-seeking, self-centeredness. It's all about cause and effect. If you have positive thinking, positive words, and positive actions, you're going to have God in your life. And if you don't, no God. So it's a matter of, if you are willing to face the actual situation, change the cause, you'll change the effect. Now this is a map of consciousness, which I think is really valuable because it shows the vibrations, and as you move up through, here we have shame, guilt, apathy, grief. As you move up through the vibrational energy into the pure consciousness, the God source, you know, then we come into bliss and we come into peace and joy and serenity. All the things, if we're feeling good, you're feeling God. I literally was raised in a church as a child, and the minister really did say from the pulpit one Sunday, it's not about feeling good. You know, I'm here to tell you it's all about feeling good. All of it. Good as you want. Spiritually, the problem is we've been separated from God, living in the past or the future with your ego running the show. And the solution is oneness with God, living in the present with unconditional love. So when we move ourselves into that spiritual place, this is current. This book just came out. This guy is on YouTube currently. Doctor says health is realizing God. So Dr. Eben Alexander, this is his website, story is not a fantasy. Before he underwent his journey, he could not reconcile his knowledge of neuroscience. He's a neurologist. In any belief in heaven, God, or the soul. Today, Alexander is a doctor who believes that true health can be achieved only when we realize that God and the soul are real, and that death is not the end of personal existence, but only a transition. This website is lifebeyonddeath.net. So here we have ways to raise your consciousness. And I don't think I put that in here. Like I say, this is a 10-hour class in an hour. So, but you people are familiar with many of these things. Meditation, obviously, yoga, obviously, all kinds of past life therapy, regression therapy, laying on hands. These things as a Cayce person is probably very well aware of. Aromatherapy, flower essences, cards, astrology, gems, nature, color, sounds, all these things. And of course the Cayce electromagnetic healing and the wet cell appliances. And if you don't know what else to do, just go do some volunteer work. It can be that simple. So spirituality is moving into a higher altered state of unconditional love, which most people call Christ consciousness. The serenity prayer means that we'll become serene to accept the things I cannot change, which is other people, places, and things. Anything outside of that hula hoop, anything outside of that circle of God, I can't change. The courage to change the things I can is me changing me. I am the only person I can change. And the wisdom to know the difference. And if it's out there, I can't do a thing about it. So I can point to somebody and say, they really have a problem. There's 3 fingers pointing back. So just take a look at that one sometime. In here, I've included the St. Francis prayer because that's one of the best ways to get out of yourself, I know. You'll feel really good. Thank you for attending. And because you've all been such great people, I'm speaking to the choir. So pick a number from 1 to 50 and they'll give you a door prize. And love is all around. That's what keeps us healthy. Love is all around. So pick a number and let's see. I'll give Darcy, I'll just give you the number. So pick a number and this is
We believe you, Marilyn.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
believe you.
All right. This is a painting I did. Bringing some roses. Okay, I'll pick a number. I've got my number. Okay, so what is your number?
11.
All right.
7, 12,
9.
5.
27.
You're the highest one, right? My number was 32. Darcy, you did it. You took a thing. Okay.
Need to be psychic, isn't it?
I didn't frame it because I don't know what the decor in your house. Well, in your case, I know what the decor is, but
Who was the next lowest below me? What was
I think this was Irene. I think it was. Oh, 25 was the next lowest. So, like I say,
Because I have so
10
much
hours of
access
program
to-
into 1 hour was
to her,
really
and I have
jam-packed,
her
but
let her have it.
we got to get moving to your Sydney, you can go to the restroom without.
Thank you very much. Is Cindy
So are
coming
there
in
any
here?
questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I tried to jam it in there.
You did a good job.